Good morning, children. Now, in this lecture, we will continue our discussion from a new topic, and the topic is change of a state. Now, the process of change from one state to another state, either by absorption or rejection of heat at a constant temperature, is called the change of a state. Now, two terms are very important over here, that heat energy is either absorbed or rejected, that is liberated, and the second, that it takes place at a constant temperature. Then only this process will be regarded as a change of state. Now, the important concept over here is that the change of a state of a substance, it always occurs at a fixed temperature, and during that process the quantity of heat which is either given to or taken away from that substance, it does not cause a change in its temperature. This heat is called the latent heat or the hidden heat. Then the question arises, then what is the purpose of that exchange of heat with the surrounding? Actually, the heat energy which is exchanged with the surrounding, either the heat energy is absorbed by the substance from its surrounding or the heat energy is liberated from the substance into the surroundings, that heat energy is basically used to rearrange the molecular structure in that particular substance, and therefore the temperature remains constant. This is the reason why the temperature is always constant when a change of a state is taking place. Now, there are certain examples like the process of melting, process of freezing, process of boiling or vaporization, then condensation, sublimation, deposition, and so on and so forth. Now, let us discuss them one by one. Changes of a solid into liquid or vice versa. Like, suppose when a solid is heated, it changes into its liquid at a fixed temperature. This process is called as melting or fusion, the first one. And the reverse happens when the liquid is cooled. The liquid freezes into solid at the same fixed temperature. This process is called as freezing. So melting and freezing, they are just the opposite of each other. Now, what happens when a liquid changes into gas or vice versa? When a liquid is heated, it changes into its vapor or gas form at a fixed temperature. This process is called boiling or vaporization. And the reverse happens when this vapor is cooled, that is, a vapor condenses into liquid at the same temperature. So this process will be known as condensation. Now there's one more process which can take place during the change of a state, and that is when the change of solid directly into a gaseous state or the change of gaseous state directly into a solid state takes place. In some cases, like very famous example is that of camphor and iodine. Now, in that case, a solid on heating directly changes into its vapor or gaseous state without changing into the liquid. This process is known as sublimation. And the reverse, that is the gas on being cooled, if it directly changes into the solid state, this process will be called as a deposition process. So these are some of the changes in the state that takes place when the temperature is changed. Now, often children get confused between vaporization and evaporation. But actually, both the processes are completely different. For example, now let us take up the differences between evaporation and boiling. The first difference, evaporation is a slow process, whereas boiling, it is a rapid process. Now, why it is a slow process? There must be some reason for that, definitely. See, in evaporation, the there is no presence of an external heat source. The liquid, the molecules, they absorb the energy from the surrounding, and that is why, because there is no external source present, as in case of boiling, that is why the process takes a longer time. So evaporation is a slow process while boiling is a rapid process. Second difference, in evaporation, the process of evaporation mainly takes place at the surface of the liquid, while in boiling it takes place throughout the mass of the liquid. Third one, evaporation takes place at all temperatures, while boiling it takes place at a specific constant temperature, which is called the boiling point of the liquid. And the fourth, and one of the most important, evaporation always lowers the temperature of the surrounding, and this is the reason why it is said evaporation causes a cooling effect, whereas in boiling we always supply heat energy from outside, so there is no cooling process that takes place in boiling. The temperature of the surrounding remains constant in the case of boiling. There is no process of cooling in case of boiling, while evaporation leads to the cooling of the surroundings. Now, there are certain factors that affect the rate of evaporation also. What are those factors? The first factor that affect the rate of evaporation taking place from the surface of a liquid is, first is the temperature of the liquid. Now it is but obvious. A wet cloth, it dries up on a hot day much faster than a cold day when the temperature of the surrounding is low. Then it will definitely, the evaporation will take place a longer time. So the rate of evaporation is higher if the temperature of the liquid is high, or simply we can say that the rate of evaporation is higher, is more, when the temperature of the surrounding is more. Second, the area of the exposed surface. A cloth dries up faster if it is spread out than if it is folded up. Because what we are doing actually, when we are spreading up a particular piece of cloth, because when we are spreading up, we are increasing the area of that cloth or that object, which is, we are increasing the exposed surface. So the rate of evaporation increases if the area of surface exposed increases. Third one, the nature of the liquid. Now there are certain liquids which are volatile. Now volatile liquids which are having low boiling point, such as alcohol, spirit, ether, etc., they evaporate much faster than water. So this is why the volatile liquids are stored in tightly closed bottles, because their rate of evaporation is higher. They easily convert into their gaseous form. Then the next factor, the fourth one, the flow of air above the liquid. If air is blown above the liquid surface, it moves away the molecules of the liquid from the surface with it. So the liquid evaporates more quickly. This is why to cool the milk, we blow air above it. And the last, the presence of humidity. Always remember, in dry air, evaporation will be faster than in humid air. And this is the reason why wet clothes dry faster in dry summer days than in rainy season. So this was a discussion about the different topics in this chapter. Now please go through the lectures and please keep revising and stay safe. Thank you.